All right, the 2021 Bronco has been unveiled. Watched it all live on YouTube. And now the 2021 JL versus the 2021 Bronco. I'm excited for both. Obviously, I already have a JL and a JT. And it's going to be exciting to get the Bronco out in the field and get the aftermarket going crazy. For myself, being in the aftermarket realm, I'm excited. I've owned an IFS Jeep that we built in-house with independent front suspension and a true 4-link in the back, and it was actually a ball to drive. So I liked it in the rocks. I took it to Moab, I took it to Rubicon, and we had a total blast with it. The difference is that it had a V8 motor in it, but suspension-wise, it's very similar to the Bronco. I was a little bit wider, but I only had 11.5 inches of travel, so very similar in travel in the front. In the rear, I was at 12 inches of travel when I mounted the shock to the rear end itself, and I was at 14 when I put it on a trailing arm. But overall, I think it's going to react and drive very similar. So I'm excited with that. I think with the track bar on the back of the Bronco, I think that's going to give us a little bit more edge as far as getting forward bite in the rock obstacles. In the desert, I think it'll be good. I think with a true 4-link, you can get it's a little bit more neutral, but overall, I think, it's going to be epic. So now comparing it to the Jeep, obviously the Jeep JL is a straight axle. Benefits of a straight axle are in the rocks. I think it's a lot less abusive on parts. And upgrades are a lot easier. From what we can see, the packaging in the front, we're already looking at developing something new that'll be stronger than what comes in its stock for the front axle stock. So it'll be a bolt-in replacement front end, and then for the rear end is do a complete new rear end that will utilize all the stock sensors, but we'll replace the stock locker, stock gear, stock housing with something bigger and stronger. So that way, 40-inch tires is obviously a must. So, and now with every tire manufacturer going up to a 42, we're gonna need to get a 42 into there. So the Jeep is no problem with 42s. Some trimming needed, but you can get a 42. It'll be exciting to see what the Bronco is capable of. We see that the Bronco comes with a 35, where a Jeep comes basically with a 33. The ground clearance, it is an inch taller, an inch better on the Bronco, but it's got a 2-inch taller tire. So you take the difference, it's the same. It's funny that both of them have done a very good job of basically, I feel the ground clearance, the approach angles are all very similar. Where I feel the departure angles, all the other angles are going to be very similar. So for myself, I think once we put the 37s or 40s on them, they're going to be similar. The biggest thing in the front is getting the axle strength to be strong enough to handle a 37 or 40-inch tire on the Bronco. For us on the Jeeps, it's no problem. We just put 60s or 9 inches in it, and it's there, and it's really easy. On the Bronco, we're going to have to worry about the CVs and the steering being strong enough to handle a 37 or 40 in the rocks. That's the biggest thing. For me is I like to go to Baja. We do a ton of Baja driving, and we say Baja, it's top of the peninsula all the way down to the bottom. So it's 1,000 miles down, 1,000 miles back, all dirt, and we do it probably 4 or 5 times a year. And that wears on a vehicle. So having a steering that can stay cool enough and is strong enough to handle that, like obviously upgrades are probably going to be a factor, and hopefully it's easy to upgrade without getting the wiring too upset. So motor-wise, though, it's gonna be interesting. I feel that when the Jeep JL upgraded from a 6-speed to an 8-speed automatic transmission, it was night and day difference. Like having the same 3.6 liter motor, just changing the transmission, night and day difference. My Jeep's run 40s, and 538 gears. I'm driving down the highway, if I want to, 80, 85 miles an hour, low RPM, cruising speed in 8th gear, around town or around local highway driving, 7th gear, but still getting 17, 18 miles to the gallon. But now you're looking at the 2.7 liter EcoBoost V6 with 310 horsepower. So yeah, 30 more horsepower than the Jeep, and a 10-speed automatic transmission. It's to me, it's going to be good. I like the automatic transmissions. I'm not a manual tranny guy, so not going to get into the manual thing just because it's not my expertise. But I think the 10-speed will be nice. When in low range, one thing that I noticed on the JL in low range, not on the Rubicon edition, but all other editions, is that, man, in low range with the 8-speed transmission, they drive super good. I love the way they crawl, and then when you get up and want to just go from obstacle to obstacle, I mean, go up to almost 50 miles an hour in low range, and that makes it super nice and comfortable since you don't have to keep shifting between high and low range. So with the 10-speed transmission, it's probably going to work good. So I think that'll be a fun vehicle for myself. Obviously, once again, we get into the Baja and the rocks, and with the Bronco, I think in the desert, obviously with IFS in the front, it'll make it easier to tune that and make it more comfortable for the desert. And I think in the rocks, it's going to work well. I don't see there being any downfalls, rather than it's going to be more expensive to upgrade the CVs. But I feel that the similarities in the vehicle size they're so similar. The wheelbase on the Jeep being 118 and the Ford Bronco 116. For myself, that 2 inches shorter, I think overall would probably help you in the rocks, just because it's a little shorter, so turning radius will be a little bit easier. I don't know what the exact turning radius is as far as how much sharper the Jeep turns over the Bronco, but having a little bit shorter isn't going to hurt you. That's where I feel the two-door Jeep versus a four-door. The two-door definitely has advantages, like on the Rubicon. It's easier on those big rocks to get a two-door through than a four-door, just from the turning. And then, with the Bronco, I think it might actually be a benefit. So I'm excited to test them both and put them basically to the test. I feel that if we're going to go straight axle, I think it's going to be fun. I already have my Jeeps built, ready to go, and my goal is to build a Bronco that is bolt-in suspension, bolt-in front diff, bolt-in rear diff, that will modify it enough to make it strong enough for 40s. So my goal is to put it on 40s and go to Moab and go to Rubicon and make it work with no lights on the dash. For myself, I'm not a big fan of having lights on the dash and the gauge is upset and, things flickering. I just don't, it's not my style. I like everything running like a normal car. That way, if the wife wants to get in and drive, she's not panicking because, it's telling her that it's not safe to drive. So I'm a big fan of that. And, one thing here at Currie Enterprises that my dad and grandpa were all about was making sure that everything plugs in. So that way, driving down the road, ABS, everything still works normal and you're not going to have any trouble. The Jeep JK into the transition in the JL, I think Jeep did a fantastic job of keeping the looks of the Jeep. For myself, I'm a big Wrangler fan, and I don't want to see it go towards minivan look. And I was worried that Ford was going to do that to the Bronco, and they did not. I think the Ford Bronco looks great. I think it looks to me, it looks like a more modern version of the old Bronco. And you get some people saying it looks like an FJ, and to myself, I don't see it. I think it looks more like a Bronco. I think the way they did the fenders, to me, it looks easier to modify than any other FJ out there, or SUV for that matter. I like that the front and rear bumpers are removable and the fender flares are modifiable, so you can actually modify them. So to me, those are the type of upgrades that I look for, that if we're going to build this thing out, I don't want to have to cut and get crazy on the fenders or bumpers, or remove them without being able to add something else, and I think they did a great job with that. The cool thing about the Bronco that I like is the new 12-inch screen. I'm a big fan of, all the bells and whistles. Just spend a lot of time in our vehicles, so if we're going to enjoy it, one thing, having the 12-inch screen and all the newer electronics in there, I think it's going to be amazing. The integrated switches, and having the mounting points for basically adding GPSs or GoPros or things like that. I think they did a good job. Another unique feature we like is that they have grab handles basically on the dash on both sides of the driver and passenger side. So now when you're getting in on the rocks, just a great easy place to hold on to pull yourself in. Another unique feature that they obviously haven't told too much about, but I think it's exciting, is the go over all terrain. From the videos, it's looking like basically the sway bars basically automatic disconnect, or not disconnect, but basically unlock allowing motion and cycle rate to basically open up. And also another feature that we've noticed on the Ford Bronco is when you're in 4 low in tight turning radiuses, it'll lock up the inside wheel, allowing for tighter turns, which I think is a cool feature. I don't know how it's going to work when people start putting unselectable lockers in it. So, but I think it'd be a cool feature to keep, even if you're going to upgrade the axles. So that way, in certain situations, you can turn around a tight radius. I think that'll be a nice feature. I'm a big fan of Jeep Wranglers. I think everything they've done with the straight axle is amazing. For myself, I love going to Baja. I love going fast. I feel that you can make a Jeep work excellent in all those conditions. But I'm also excited to see the Ford Bronco. I'm excited to see the capabilities, and for myself, building it out in a way that we can go do the same trails and go to Mexico and maybe go a little faster, and maybe struggle a little bit more on the rocks. But overall, I'm excited that there's 2 different vehicles in the market to go to the same place. So now if you were not a Jeep fan and you're a Ford fan, now you need to come wheeling with us in the rocks. And if you were a Ford guy and wanted to go to Mexico with us but didn't own a Ford Raptor, now you can own a Ford Bronco and come down to Mexico with us. For me, it's all about getting everybody out on the trail and seeing everything getting upgraded in a way that makes it yours. I love that you can customize it. I love that you can make it how you want to make it, and I feel that the aftermarket's going to go crazy for it, and I'm excited for that. I'm Casey Currie. Thank you for watching. Now, comment below. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Subscribe right here. Watch more videos here. Thank you, guys.